So I have a problem. I have this really nice portrait of 37 from Reverse 1999, who is my favorite character in that game, and I don't know how to render gold. And she has several items on her person that need to be gold. Um, Here's my first attempt at it. Not very good, honestly. So I need to figure out how to render gold so I can finish this portrait that I've been waiting on for like a month now. So let's get to it. First thing I did was, of course, scour the internet and YouTube for how to make gold in digital paint tutorial, please help. And I really didn't find a whole lot that was super helpful for me. Unfortunately, usually you can. Maybe I just wasn't looking in the right place. I don't know. So what I ended up doing was I went to my local store full of items that you need to fill your house with so that you can feel less alone, and got some of these things, a little thing, and then a bowl, and then a frog, and they're all gold. And so I'm going to do gold studies, trying to figure out how to render gold digitally so I can paint and finish this portrait finally. Okay, taking a look at the first gold thingy. First did a really quick sketch and then put down like a neutral base gold tone, adding in the super bright orangey gold highlights. And then followed up, I started to add in the like mid-tone reflection colors in that warmer shade. And then I start to go in with some cooler tones. And to note, I didn't go on the color wheel into the blue section. I simply moved a little bit to the right to push it a little bit cooler. Then I start adding in some other variations, a little bit more saturated, a little bit darker, to kind of add in more of the larger reflection areas. Which also getting in some of that general definition of the surrounding area that's, the world that is being reflected on the surface. So now that I've got kind of the general rough mid-tone colors, and I'll start with a little bit of the highlights for the definition, I'm going to start in what's probably the most important step is to add in the darker values and really starts to bring it alive. And then I realize it's a little bit too cool at this point, so I go in and add some little bit more subtle, warmer midtones in there and kind of brighten it up a little bit. I even started to add in a little bit of green. There is definitely green that can be found in gold and as well as just reflected in the world. Don't know if it totally worked out great here, and I think I ended up kind of color correcting it out a little bit later. Adding in some even darker and more detailed reflections to kind of finalize some of that contrast and detail. And then I came back and added in some of the more brighter, almost pure white highlights in. Do a little bit of color correction as well as just some cleanup. I also came in and kind of blurred, smudged some of the areas to give it a little bit of the smoother feel where it was appropriate. And then fixing up some of the like form and shape and just finally doing some last minute cleanup on it. Doing a little color correction, and then I started to add in these like subtle gradients to really give it more of that color variation that I can see in editing. And like watching back this footage, I've realized one thing that I need to work on in the future is varying up my color while I am painting. I kind of stick to one color and then do everything that I see in that value and then move to like the next color, which is not necessarily a bad way, and then like fixing it up with the gradients. It works, but I think that to be a better artist is kind of like would be important to be able to vary up the colors as I'm going through the painting process. All right, moving on to the second gold object, this little bowl. thing. This one's pretty hard in my opinion, as there's like two materials to it. There's the like smooth, very kind of blurry reflective, and then there's the like really rough rings that go all the way down the side of it. So my game plan for it was just to try and do it in like a layered approach, getting in the general smooth reflections on the outside of the bowl and then just kind of blurring it out. And so I wasn't really certain how to approach this, so a couple of my first attempts was not very good, but I did get there with okay results in the end. I kind of like cut out on the blurred side, but then I kind of ended up taking like my pencil brush that's kind of rough and trying to get the gold striations in there. I kind of screwed up a little bit and I didn't get the rings fully formed around the object as they actually appear in perspective, so it ruins a little bit. I think in the end, this is probably the weakest, but it is still believable for the type of object that it is. Definitely not perfect, but I would say generally good learning. All right, and now the frog doing a yoga pose, I think. Started out with a little sketch, which I realized kind of looks a little bit like a Pepe. We're starting with a base gold. Really come in with the bright orangey highlights to give some definition on one side, and then a little bit of brighter white almost, but still very warm highlights on the left. Brought in some cool mid-tones. Oh, I ended up changing the base gold color. Oops. Oh, I ended up redoing some of it because I think I screwed up layers. And then coming in with some like darker mid-tones, a little bit more neutral, and then some even darker darks to get in some of those definition and little details in the reflections. Bringing in some browns to warm it up. A little bit lighter of a kind of desaturated rose color almost. And then some more neutrals and a little bit warmer. And at this point, I took the highlights out, duplicated them, and then blurred them out a little bit to add a kind of the little bit of a glowy effect. Went in and got a little bit more of the darker details. Got a little bit more definition, did a little bit of color correction. Doing some airbrushing, which kind of helps out. Coming in, blurring out, smoothing out, blending some of the areas. Kind of tightening up and sharpening some of the defining reflection details, a little bit of color correction again. I found that one thing that is really helpful is not being afraid of putting the darks right next to the bright highlights. It really helps define some of the things. And continuing with more definition of the darks, which it really brings it together, I think. Gold is reflecting almost as much of the like bright shiny stuff as it is the, you know, darker colors of the world. All right, so finally taking a look at what prompted this entire journey, and this is the Portrait of 37, my favorite character in Reverse 1999. Starting back out, I did have to go back through and re-add some line art that wasn't really there to get that clear definition. Also reworked some of the accessory bangle things. It's been a while since I had actually worked on this piece. And with that done, we can move on to the actual gold rendering. All right, so starting out with a bit of a brighter light yellow color for the general highlights. trying to follow the style of the original artwork. It's kind of like, I don't know, like stippled look to it. I'm not certain what exactly a real life golden object or even sort of metal would have to look like to kind of create that visual look. I think it looks really good and it's a very nice style. Maybe it's just the art style and not really the object like that. I'm not an expert on gold stuff. And then after the bright highlights, I forgot the top headband. So adding that back in. Going for the darker colors, and I went with a pretty brown tone. I think it actually works quite well. So kind of doing this as like highlights and shadows. I think even just right away, this looks wildly better than my very first attempts at the gold rendering before I had began to learn how to actually do this. Bringing some different mid-tones in as well. And now coming in with an even darker dark to fill in those areas. Having both of them, I think, works really nicely, at least in this. Now, I do feel like pointing out, I did start this with a different brush than the previous pieces. I think that this brush in particular works very well for this kind of stylization of the gold, or this kind of specific material. Now, I will say, you know, your brush is not the end-all be-all of any sort of digital art process. It is just a tool. All right, and then just like how I added in even further darks, I'm also coming in and adding even brighter highlights into the already bright areas, just to push the contrast even further. As well as here, adding in some kind of bounce lights and reflections onto the armband and necklace. All right, now this part took me quite a while, and I had a lot of trial and error to try and like create, you know, definition and that real gold look on what is like quite a large like flat, or I mean it's rounded, but you know, not with a whole bunch of like ridges and bumps in this necklace part. Took a lot. It was just kind of a lot of addition and a little bit of subtraction, but keep adding and adding and adding different colors until I got something that I was particularly, I ended up being real happy with it, actually. As much as you want to work up close on these kinds of things to get that detail work, it's also important to zoom out, look at it as a whole, even work on it fully zoomed out sometimes. So also coming in with a bit of warmer tones, some orange airbrushing across a lot of it. I try not to overdo that too much, because you can very quickly get too much of that and overtake a lot of the work that I've done. All right, and then in the final stretch here, I did a little bit of cleanup, you know, tweaked a few things here and there. In the bangle here, I did something that's another like kind of technique on how to do this, where I add in the dark tones, and then I lowered the opacity of that layer, and then came in with another pass at that. It's a good way to kind of stack some color variation. Doing some other like shadow work, other parts. Adding in some more kind of reflection, bounce lighting. But generally this is kind of like the end of this gold rendering. I think it ended up turning out really fantastic. I'm very proud of it. And then if we can compare my very original attempt, I used a brush that was not very good for this, or at least I'm not able to get the most out of that brush. Rather, it's not the brush's fault. It's my fault for not utilizing it properly. So I haven't gone on this learning journey and then just comparing the difference. I mean, wow, it is night and day. I definitely feel like I learned a whole lot, grew a lot as an artist, trying to tackle this. I think she ended up turning out fantastic. I mean, just comparing the before, after, before, after. I mean, wow. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but I think it ended up pretty good. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching. Follow, subscribe, stream on Twitch and Bluesky. I post art on Bluesky. You can follow me there and Twitch and here on YouTube and subscribe. And okay, thank you. Links in description. Bye. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye. I hope it helped or it was entertaining or a good video. Okay, thanks. Bye.